live. Looks like I can only do this as a vertical video. I don't know why I can't do it horizontally, but whatever. Alright. Welcome to Storytime with AJ. I'm gonna do a live, is my mic on? Okay. Live reading of my book, The Story of Hell. I'm not gonna do the whole book, but I want to come on here and do this. A lot of people probably follow this channel for the music. I'm also a book writer, so wanted to do something where I share some music, or not music, a book. Real quick, just getting this open. So I'm actually working on an audiobook version for my books. It's gonna have like music and background sound effects, stuff like that. But I only have one audiobook available right now, but working on an audiobook version for this one specifically, which is The Storming of Hell, and I'll be sharing parts from this book because this is the one that my new album is based on, or it's basically what my strategy is I have the book and then I release the album alongside the book. That's kind of telling the story from a little bit of a different perspective, it's not always telling the story. It's kind of sometimes sharing more of like a personal view is what the music side of it is, kind of. But want to share some of the book with you, and just because they kind of go alongside each other, and that's kind of what a part of like my brand is. I'm a storyteller through metal music, mythical metal music. So yeah, but going to start with chapter 1. I may skip around, I may just read through the whole thing for these. Hopefully the glare from my glasses looking down on this isn't too bad. Anybody joining in the live, let me know if you can hear me okay. Or not. I'll be looking at this part of the time, so I'll try to look up and stuff. But if you're watching this afterwards, let me know what you think. You can get the book at firefromheavenshop.com. You can get a PDF version, and I'm in the works of getting like a physical version made. Not entirely sure how to do that yet. I haven't put a lot of time into it, but I've had several people ask me, so it is in the works. I'm going to figure that out. But, alright. So, Storming of Hell by me, Andrew Hopper. Chapter 1, The Fall of the Fire Folk. It was the year 3033 when the relentless hordes of hell emerged from the depths beneath our feet, overwhelming us in sheer numbers. We found ourselves facing an insurmountable force, and in desperation they offered us a contract they called the safe flight to death. To my dismay, the prophet of the firefolk and his loyal followers submitted themselves to the devils of hell. Their surrender was met with mocking laughter. You want me to try and voice act on these? I don't know. I'll try it. I am for the audiobook, but I can also put sound effects and stuff like that in for the audiobook, the actual audiobook. I'll do some voice acting just for fun, make the reading more interesting. Was this the renowned courage we heard for ages? I can't even read. We had heard for ages, one of the devils asked. Were these the legendary firefolk? That's my demon voice, I don't know. I witnessed children with more valor than this cowardly king and his people. With a sly smile, the greatest among the devils declared. Now this devil, he's like well, I don't have to explain a lot, but the idea is that the devils are actually very appealing and nice. The one I was just impersonating was more of like a demon. This is like the devil, the leader. So he's supposed to sound all smug and like proper and stuff like this. I'm still kind of working on his voice. You are all granted the safe flight to death. Now take up your arms and move to the front lines. Confusion and panic filled the air. But I thought you were offering us a safe flight to death, questioned the prophet. The devil retorted, Indeed, you shall have it, but first you must pay the price. Those who survive shall be granted a life of ease for the remainder of their days. A life of ease? As long as we stay out of your way? The prophet queried. You want us to turn against our own? He continued, protesting the proposition. The devil sneered. You already have, and they have already turned against you as well. Declare them enemies as they have done to you, for they are the only obstacle between you and a life of ease. We won't fight against our own, the prophet exclaimed. This was not the deal, he pleaded. I don't know why I changed my voice for that. We signed the contract and you promised to let us go free. The devil chuckled. Ah, the fine print. Your life is now mine until you fulfill my requirements, and I alone decide what that entails. I say again, move to the front of the line or be slaughtered. No, the prophet, unarmed, reached for a nearby guard's weapon, but before he could defend himself, his head fell from his shoulders, cleanly severed by a sword stroke. Some resisted, but the majority chose to betray their brothers and sisters, committing the most despicable act of treachery. Their children, for generations to come, would suffer the consequences of their cowardice. Within the city walls of the firefolk, only a few remained after the exodus of cowards, seeking a safe flight to death. Those who remained stood tall and defiant against the vast armies of the devils. A monumental battle ensued, unlike any the world had witnessed before. The firefolk, though vastly outnumbered, fought with a fierce wrath, directed both at the devils and their own kinsmen who betrayed them. Yet, despite their resilience, they could not withstand the unending horde that poured forth from the gates of hell. They were overrun, and those who survived faced a choice: sign the safe flight to death or meet an immediate demise. Many, clinging to hope, signed with the belief that someday they might regain their freedom. Life for the firefolk thereafter was a bitter existence, if it could even be called life. From childhood, they were molded into obedient subjects confined to places akin to boarding schools. Their interactions with parents were limited to a few hours each evening, except for weekly holidays when they were granted an entire afternoon with their families. Then they would return to school and their parents would resume their work. With time, the firefolk grew accustomed to this way of life and even found comfort within its confines. In fact, they became indifferent to spending time with their own children during limited holidays, preferring solitude instead. Consequently, succeeding generations transformed from once great individuals into cowards and fools, devoid of purpose and guided solely by the doctrines imposed in their schools. They were raised by devils, manipulating them to fit into a hive mentality, for this is how demon hordes work. Those who dared to question this indoctrination were expelled from school and forced into a life of slavery, often shipped across the land, never to see their friends and family again. I was among the few who refused to accept these terms. It was a long and arduous battle with the devil's courts, but they could not overturn their own rule that those who did not sign the safe flight to death were not obligated to serve them. Although I never knew my parents, I was adopted by what you and I might call grandparents. Though not related by blood, they claimed we belonged to the same ancient folk that had existed long ago. So long, they have passed out of time and into myth and legend. Under their guidance, I grew up learning to fight and survive without relying on the overlords who governed most. While we were still under their authority, we lived quietly and separately, independent and self-governing. However, when I ventured out on my own, I was deceived. Despite my family's separation from the demonic doctrines, A trace of their corrupted beliefs had taken root within me. I succumbed to a small taste of false security, placing my faith in the oppressive state and neglecting personal responsibility. Rather than working to reconstruct society, I sought to integrate into a corrupt system, hoping to influence it. Yet I soon realized that I was the minority, falling into the complacency of the majority. I, too, signed the safe flight to death, trading my freedom for what I believed to be security and safety. It was my gravest mistake, and I have carried the burden of regret throughout my life. I have sacrificed my true calling for the allure of comfort and complacency, becoming a slave, doomed to suffer until the end of my days. Now, after 10 long years, an inexplicable awakening stirs within me, singing a song of lament and a prayer for the return of fire in my heart. Hellstormer now paused, setting his pen down for a moment and singing in a deep voice this lament, called the Psalm of the Dying Fire in the ancient language of his folk. Here is what it said. O mighty ramparts, towering and grand, ensnared by malevolence's cruel command, a fortress, my haven, my captive abode, where existence and demise intertwine forebode. Too near to the brink of eternal slumber, too near to the realm of vibrant wonder. O my weary soul, why dost thou despair? Why hath thy fervor grown so cold, unaware? O undying flame, ignite and blaze bright. A mere flicker thou shalt reignite. O sovereign of my people, hearken my plea. Ignite the dormant embers, set my spirit free. Illuminate my path, both in and out. With thy radiant glow, dispel every doubt. Grant me liberation, release from my plight. With thy luminous touch, restore hope's light. Unshackle me, O Lord, from this prison within. Let freedom's song resound. Let it begin. Set me free from the chains that tightly bind, both in the outer world and deep inside my mind. He then continued writing. Since the fall of my peoples, what is left of us are scattered and lost. Some still cling to the flame better than others, but I am ashamed, for I have lost mine, I'm afraid. My heart and mind are conflicted. Faith and reason at each other's throats, though I live among devils, tortures, and slave masters. The state of my heart is what I cannot bear. How long will my heart be under siege? It is close to death from starvation, slowly withering, and I will be as those among the self-slaying, soulless bodies, their spirits dead and their bodies slowly dying. That was chapter 1 of The Storming of Hell. And that is going to conclude this story time. Now, actually, you know what I'm kind of thinking? I don't know. If anyone has any questions, let me know. If you're watching this later, you could feel free to still comment on the video and let me know if you have any questions about the story or anything like that. I don't like to explain the meaning behind everything that I write, whether it's songs or stories, because part of my intention with writing is to challenge people to think about it, or just to think about what it means, what the meaning behind it is, and stuff like that. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me them if you want. But I do sometimes kind of leave things just open-ended, sort of, and without a certain answer, I guess. But this story is an allegory, so there is meanings behind everything. I want to say a lot of it is it's basically me just writing down everything I've observed in the world and just putting it into a different world and a different story, and this sort of like a different package, but it's everything I've it's me sharing a lot of my own experiences in life and things I'm experiencing at the moment, things I've experienced in the past. stuff like that. So that's kind of like how I write best. Um, some of it is, like I said, open-ended as far as the answers and meanings behind it go. Um, I think when I get in really deep into writing, it also is a lot of the meanings can be like very like subconscious for me, and I may not even realize it. Um, but a lot of it is like intentional allegory. But there's like that subconscious aspect as well that kind of always will seep in, you know, even for those like Tolkien who were like kind of against allegory, at least in the way that Lewis wrote, which is funny that they were kind of friends. But yeah, definitely had C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and John Bunyan. Probably another one is George MacDonald. Those were all really big influences in this story and in all my stories. If I had to like give 4 authors that are my influences in writing, it'd be those 4. John Bunyan is kind of like the precursor for a lot of Christian allegory stuff. And then the in-between that most people don't know about is George MacDonald, who is a pretty big influence to both Lewis and Tolkien. Lewis is more of the allegory writer. He wrote a lot of allegories. I mean, you know him, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of them. And then Tolkien was more of, you know, he wasn't intending that, but a lot of people do find like a lot of meanings, and a lot of people like Tolkien was a Catholic, so they see a lot of like Catholic theology, so to speak, in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So yeah, but those 4 pretty big influences on the writing of this book. But you can go and check it out. I think I have it listed for like $6 to get the PDF if you want to read it. I'm working on audiobook version. If you want a physical copy, let me know. The more requests I get, the more I'm gonna prioritize that, but it costs money, so I'm not gonna do it if no one's gonna buy it. So yeah, real confident there. Not gonna never mind, I'm just gonna stop. I can get on rants with these live streams. But thanks for joining me for a reading of The Story of Hell. Watch out for more live readings and stay metal. Now, I don't usually do this on YouTube. How do I end it now? Well, you can start pulling here. Bro, you look like a pro. You know what you're doing. How do you stop the live? Nay. Let me try this. Press X on it? Oh, okay. Alright. I figured out how to stop the live. So, I'll see you later. Stay metal. And I forgot to do like an outro, sort of. But I don't have to explain it. You know, I make metal music. Check out the Patreon fan club. You can get 2 free CDs. I'm trying to get more support over there for my new album. So definitely check that out. If you want 2 free CDs, join the Epic Metal Elf tier. Stay metal.